Hey you, got a request to show people my process when it comes to creating SkaterXL clips. So here we go. Today we picked the map Applewood. Currently have a weekly spot challenge that I'm organizing for this particular area of the map. So came down here trying to get another clip for that particular challenge, and the idea or inspiration for today was to try to get a long blunt grind and then maybe a trick into another blunt side and see where it went. That was the kind of starting point. So at this point I found this kind of long ledge to grind on, and I'm starting out trying to gauge how much speed I'm going to need to carry to the end. So kind of a couple test runs, try to see if I can get locked in. This went on for a couple minutes, and then eventually I landed the first clip that kind of looked like it could be a contender. So you see a lot of kind of botches, and this is a relatively kind of simple trick. So that was the first land where I was like, okay, that might have been something. It didn't look terribly great, so I went into the replay mode to take a look where I can see it from a bunch of different angles and kind of see how clean things looked. And at this point I really wasn't trying to get a lip slide, which I think the second part ended up being. So back to the grind of trying to land something and kind of perfect it.
A few moments later.
About 9 minutes later exactly, this was the run, and this was the first one where I was like, okay, we might have had something there. So went into replay again, took a look, like I pinched pretty good there. I liked the way I tweaked before I went up onto the second ledge. That wasn't exactly a blunt side, but I thought it looked sick, and then I was pretty impressed that like that looked fucking great. I was like, alright. When I saw kind of how I finished it, I was like, alright, I think this is the one we're gonna take. So I was just looking at that from different angles, and then I was interested to see, I couldn't remember if I actually popped off the ledge or if I rolled off, which is definitely cleaner and more realistic looking from a ledge of that size, I guess. And then now we get into editing. So at this point I wasn't sure which direction I wanted to capture it from. There really were only kind of like three choices. It was either going to be follow, be in front pretty tight, or kind of like a wide angle from diagonal to the side. So at this point I'm playing around to see at the key points in the kind of trick sequence, where do things kind of look best to my eye. And this is all subjective, and I don't really have any style in this shit, or I'm still learning kind of like what looks good and what works. But you know, I kind of narrowed it down to this point where it was either going to be close behind or kind of close in front. I didn't feel like there were too many other obstacles around on the sides to like capture it from like side by side or from like a wide angle. I didn't think you would catch the full like pinch right there. I thought that like looked pretty tight, and I think this might be at the point where I decided, okay, yeah, capturing like the skater coming into me being in front of him, was like definitely the way to go. So, and now I'm trying to like figure out, my first point is like popping up onto the ledge, and I wanted to make sure that I like caught the ledge in the foreground during the pop so you can kind of see the target that I was aiming for. And then at this point I'm trying to put another keyframe kind of right when I land. So like I wanted a good like kind of zoomed in kind of showing like how the grind locked in. And then, so I got those 2 steps, and then next kind of key point in the trick is popping up to the other ledge. So again, same kind of principle. I wanted to try to get the top ledge in the foreground so you can kind of see beforehand where I was kind of going. And it's all happening pretty quick. So now when you play it back, the game will automatically transition from one frame to the other and will move the camera kind of smoothly. So at this point, I'm just kind of taking a look to see if there are any kind of like really fast pans or zooms that don't kind of look super like natural, I guess. So I didn't like how fast it transitioned from me popping from the second or for the first to the second. So I took the middle keyframe out and tried to let the game kind of like smoothly do it for me. And yeah, I was just playing around with the height, and I really wanted to get in a little closer on the grind so you can kind of see it in a little more detail rather than be far back. It ended up not being a blunt slide by the game's definition, but I would kind of dispute that, I guess. I guess they call it a tail slide. I don't see it, not from that angle. And then now I'm pretty happy with that part, and I'm working on how does it look when I pop up to the second ledge, and I really wanted to kind of come out from the ledge a little bit to kind of like capture how I kind of tweaked it to the side. So this is kind of that, and then I was debating on whether I should come in closer on this landing and kind of change the view up or kind of stay consistently a bit ahead. So we're taking a look in kind of a little bit of slow-mo, and then I wanted to try to like catch the board a little more coming up that second ledge. So if I remember right, I wasn't initially super happy with this. So there we go, we're kind of up. And now we're going to figure out what happens when I come off of the final ledge. So most times when I kind of like, and then also I was kind of seeing like which direction I was when I did the last trick, the big spin. So most times when I come out of something or when I end something, I like to be kind of like facing the skater rather than seeing his back. So I changed my position here so that, you know, I'm moving, but I'm also moving to my right so that I catch his kind of face when he comes off the ledge. And I didn't like the camera kind of panned down low pretty early, so I had to put another keyframe to make sure I was all the way on top of the ledge until the very end, and then I was pretty happy with that. So I landed pretty close up shot on the skater, had to reposition a little bit just so like I got like most of his head in the shot, and I think I was pretty happy with that. And now it's how do I shoot the last shot. So definitely gonna stay on his, you know, this side, because there's no way I can get over the other side quick. And kind of the beginning part of the trick is kind of like the bread and butter for catching this, I guess. So trying to get in as close as possible for detail while keeping like the whole skater in the frame. So I caught the very beginning of the trick, and then we got to figure out how to catch the end of it. So wasn't sure kind of how far to come up the hill, but I decided I was going to come up like pretty kind of close and directly on the side, and then I was pretty happy with that as far as like a first like keyframe. So the only problem is I wanted to catch him up in the air, so I had to set another keyframe up so that the camera would pan up and catch him. Some people only like to catch the board, and then I noticed there's like a little twitch at the end right there. That was like a little glitch with the game, or I hit some kind of weird surface. So here's kind of like first dry run of coming off the ledge. I noticed that the skater's head fell out of frame, so I added another keyframe in the middle of that so that the camera would pan up a little bit and catch his head. And then coming up the ledge, I'm okay with like a little bit of the hat clipping out because the board is more important. And then landed, and I was like, you know what, it's pretty good, but the landing, I think I want it to be a bit closer and further up. So at this point, we back it all the way up, see it in real motion, and yeah, I think we pretty much nailed it at this point. So I was questioning on whether I should show the last flip in slow motion, but then I noticed right there kind of a sketchy landing, so I think slow motion is out of the picture. So if I did it in fast motion, no one else would really catch it because it's so fast. And then I was deciding what to do about the little hitch there, and figured I can pan the camera away and then you wouldn't see the hitch. And I noticed it happened really quick right there, so I tested kind of slowing it down with the triggers on my playback, and that's what I ended up going with. So now we're figuring out, we got the full clip, we got the ending. Now I wanted to try to add some sizzle to the beginning. So, you know, a couple options. The first one that came to mind was focus at the ground and have it pan up at the skater. You know, I'm doing this right here and didn't really like that at all. So decided, well, if not down, then let's take a look up in the sky. Cool skyline and palm trees. A little more interesting to look at. And then I liked that pan, but I thought like it came in a little high. It kind of looked like a drone cam more than a like person holding the cam, which is kind of the goal. So I lowered the camera as far as possible without going underground, and then pointed it back up to the sky, and I thought that was way more natural right there. That looked great. So playing the full clip at full speed here, and then bam, and then you see how it like snaps to the sky at the end. That was something that, yeah, I was going to get rid of in the final kind of playback. You can kind of change speeds at any point when you're playing it back to like speed it up or slow it down. And I can just throw a little slow-mo at the end there with holding the trigger down, and it would kind of pan a little more naturally to make it not so jarring. So at this point, taking a second, and then here's the full playback of the clip as it ended up. So, and right there, slowed the pan up to the sky.